If you've ever noticed that you just can't relax because it always feels like there's just one more thing to do, then the root cause of this might be deeper than your to-do list. And it might be true that you have a lot of things on your to-do list, and so that when you even try to sit down, you can't stop thinking about the dishes that need to get done, or the emails you want to answer, or anything else. And yes, those are all valid reasons to feel stressed, but that part of you that feels like it can't relax could stem from your relationship with how you perceive your worth and value. And if you relate to this sense of like not being able to relax, I invite you to dig a little deeper to discover if the root cause is related to your experiences, perhaps growing up. And so I wonder if you grew up in a home where you felt like you were loved and valued no matter what. That there was unconditional acceptance of who you authentically are, including the fact that sometimes you wanted to just lay around and watch TV, like that you just wanted a break sometimes. Or maybe you grew up in a home like mine where you learned that your worth and value was conditional on what you could accomplish, what you could do, and how you could prove yourself. So for me, that really looked like making sure I had to get good grades, because good grades were never really celebrated in my home. They were just expected. And so I learned I had to be a good student to be accepted. I also learned that I had to be quiet. And so to make my mom happy, or try to see if I could get my ex-stepfather to not drink, I learned to be quiet, to walk on eggshells. Of course, it never really worked, but I still learned that maybe I could prove myself enough where my mom would finally stop criticizing me, or my ex-stepfather would stop drinking. And to make my grandma happy, I kept quiet about the abuse in my home because she always told me not to air dirty laundry. So I learned that I needed to do things to be accepted, to be valued, to stay relatively safe in my home growing up. And this experience of having a conditional relationship with my worth and value set me up to always have this part of me that was striving to do more, to accomplish more, and felt like there was just one more thing before I could take a break. And maybe you relate to me. Maybe you relate to this idea that you feel like you have to perform and constantly prove yourself, accomplish more, do more. And that's why you can't relax. Because there's this codependent part of you that arose inside of you because you learned that your worth was conditional. Of course, this was mistaken. You were born with inherent worth and value. All babies are born equally worthy and valuable to all others. This is true regardless of what our society teaches us. And I would even say too, even if you grew up in a good enough home, like you had good experiences growing up in your family, your worth and value could have become conditional in your mind because our society sets us up for that. Our society sets us up for a codependent, perfectionist, striving part when we're told that we have to have a certain body. We have to look a certain way, get that plastic surgery, have those fillers, have a certain type of job, a certain amount of money, all of what we have to acquire, even like buy. And so we're set up, not only sometimes in our family experiences, but our culture at large, to always feel like we have to prove ourselves. So it's no wonder if you feel like you can't relax, because maybe there's a part of you that feels like you're constantly not doing enough. But it really stems not from the fact that you haven't done enough. You've probably done so much if you're watching this video. But it really stems from the fact that the part of you that feels like you're not doing enough, deep down feels like you're not good enough. And so this cycle can never be broken by doing more. You've already learned that probably. It doesn't matter what you accomplish. It doesn't matter what you strive for, because that part of you that learned your worth is conditional on what you do and what you accomplish always say, yes, well, you got that job, but you didn't get the money yet, so let's get the money. Or now get the promotion. Or now you have to have a certain relationship. And so no matter what you accomplish, it would always be something more. Because this part of you that feels like you always have to strive to prove yourself, to have worth and value, is like a hungry ghost. And the idea of a hungry ghost stems from Buddhism. And really what it is it's like this creature that can never get satisfied. No matter how much it eats, it'll never get full. And so this is because it has like this giant belly and this little mouth. So no matter what body you have. Even when you get the hot body, you get the plastic surgery, you get the certain amount of money, you buy that purse, you buy that car, you have that partner. It doesn't matter, because it's a hungry ghost part of you, this codependent striving part of you that always feels like you can't relax because there's always more to do. You don't break the cycle by accomplishing more. Rather, what happens is you start to wake up that it was always an illusion you had to prove yourself. Bit by bit, you start to wake up to the truth that you do have inherent value, that you don't have to prove yourself, that you don't have to have this push and pull inside of you where you're always striving, but then naturally you need a break. So then maybe you do things that you're not even proud of, because human bodies need a break. They need rest. And so maybe you do things right now like you drink too much. I know that's what I did with my perfectionist part. I felt like I'm all work and no play. And so sometimes I'd go out and I'd get so drunk, I'd black out, and I'd wake up on bruises, like with bruises on my body, and I didn't even know where they came from because I needed a break. So maybe you do that, or maybe you lose days on your phone, or maybe you just can't get out of bed on the weekends. Like I also did that. Or you overeat. I also did that. Or you see that toxic ex just because you want to have a little fun. Also did that. But like you do these things right now because there's this push-pull inside of you. You feel like you can't take a break, but you literally need a break sometimes. And so maybe you do things that, you consider self-sabotage because you're not honoring this need for rest in aligned, honest ways, because you feel guilty about it, or you feel like you have to prove yourself. So you don't break this cycle by engaging in that same push-pull dance. Instead, you wake up to the illusion that it was always a lie you had to prove yourself. You wake up to the truth bit by bit that you do have inherent worth and value. You do it in part by listening to videos like this, by contemplating, what would it look like to rest even though I feel guilty about it? What would it look like to rest even though my mind is racing? Maybe I sit down and I let myself close my eyes and lay there even though I feel guilty about it, or my mind's still going to be going, or the dishes in the sink are going to be gnawing at me. Maybe I just try anyway to give myself a break, even though I feel like I can't relax. And the more I start to realize that my worth isn't really based on what I prove or how I perform, and I give myself those respites, I take that bath, I take that nap, I go to lunch with my friends, I go out to get a coffee, then my nervous system starts to reset and restore. Because that striving part of us that's always doing more puts our nervous system into, a fight or flight or freeze state. And in all those states, we're it's a state of crisis in our nervous system. And so we're not going to think clearly. We're not going to, have a lot of energy anyway. And really, as we take the breaks that we need, even if we feel guilty, we start to restore our nervous system. And as we start to restore our nervous system, we start to feel safer. We start to wake up more to the fact that, I do have worth and value, like just because I exist. And then our relationship with doing things changes. We start to do things not because we're trying to prove ourselves, not because I have to accomplish more or prove or perform, but rather there's a spark inside of me, my creative spark, the person who I really am, my unique creativity that I feel compelled to act upon, not because I'm performing, but because it's just who I am. Maybe I write that novel because the characters just authentically live inside of me. Or I remember how much I just love the pleasure of eating a good meal. So I create a recipe. Maybe I start to, just show up in the world in ways that are a lot more authentic. Maybe I finally start that business that I feel called to start, not because I want to prove myself. In fact, maybe the people in my life aren't even supportive of me opening a bakery, for example. They don't understand it, but I do it because that authentic creative spark in me that makes me says, yes, I need this. And I don't have to prove myself. So I'm going to honor my creative spirit because I have authentic, inherent worth and value. And so as we start to break from the illusion that there's something to prove, we restore our nervous system. And then we start to create from this very authentic, creative, energetic place that's just unique to us. And what you create will be different than what your friend or your sister or your spouse makes because it comes from inside of you. It's not about what other people are expecting or wanting or needing from you. And so you still show up in the world, but it becomes a lot more aligned. It gives you a lot more joy. And then it becomes this like natural rhythm in your life, almost like breathing in and out, where you engage and you do things, not because you can't relax or you're proving, but because you're compelled. Like today, I want to help you wake up to your inherent worth and value, and I want to see what you authentically create when you break out of the illusion that you have to perform and prove yourself. And so I sat down today to create this video because I want to share this with you. I want you to wake up. I want you to wake up to how amazing you already are. There's nothing else you have to do, because there was never anything to prove. You were born inherently valuable and worthy, and there are things that only you are going to create and bring into this world. So I want you to wake up to that. So that's why I created this video today. And then just like breathing out, there's moments where you sit down and you do the thing, like me with the video right now. And then when you need a rest, because all bodies, all brains need a break, you let yourself. You know, maybe later today I'll go take a nap or read a novel that I'm working on, that I'm just enjoying just for fun. Because it's a breath. I show up creatively and I engage, and then I rest in and out like the tides. Because it's not constant pushing, burning myself out anymore. Because I realized there was never anything to prove despite what I grew up with. So I want the same for you. I want you to find the peace and joy that comes from this evolution of waking up to your inherent worth and value, and the fact there was never anything to prove. And like there's that performing perfectionist codependent part of us sometimes thinks that we'll just be lazy and do nothing in our lives if we accept relaxation, accept peace. But first of all, you have worth and value even if you accomplish nothing else in your lifetime. And secondly, that's not true, because human beings are creative. You are going to create things. You're going to create an exercise routine you love. You're going to make recipes. You're going to have relationships with people. You're going to just show up in the world like in this creative, engaged way. Like it's the antithesis of what it means to be alive to think that you'll just stop engaging at all once you wake up to your worth and value. In fact, you're going to show up in ways that make you so much more proud, and feel so much more nourishing. I'm really curious what you think about this video today, and maybe where you picked up the idea that you have to prove yourself, or the things that you authentically want to create, but maybe the perfectionist part of you says like, not now, like writing that novel. And so I'm just really excited for you as you wake up to your inherent worth and value. I am here for you along your journey as you reclaim your sense of inherent worth, recover from the codependent parts of you, and build a life that's authentically aligned and joyful and peaceful. I'm sending you so much love in your journey, and I can't wait to connect with you in the next video. If you ever want my direct support as well, there's some links in the description for some coaching to work with me directly. Thank you.